One of the most common phobias, especially among young children, is a fear of the dark. One statistic showed that 45% of children suffer from at least some degree of fear of the dark. Now, this is a fear that many people will grow out of over time, but statistics show that somewhere around 10 to 15% of adults will retain this fear of the dark. But have you ever experienced absolute darkness? Now, there are very few places on the earth today that you can experience what darkness is really like. If we're walking in our communities at night, there's usually street lights or lights from homes or the headlights of cars to illuminate our ways. We carry flashlights and lights on our cell phones that aid us in finding our way in the dark. We see that some towns and cities have so many lights that at night their glow can be seen from many, many miles away. And even when there is a power outage, we see that there is still residual light that can be seen from emergency lights and things of that nature. Well, as God was showing his power to the Egyptians through the plagues, we find that darkness was one of the discomforts that they had to experience. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand toward the sky so that darkness spreads over Egypt, darkness that can be felt." So Moses stretched out his hand toward the sky, and total darkness covered all Egypt for 3 days. No one could see anyone else or move about for 3 days, yet all the Israelites had light in the places where they lived. Exodus 10, verses 21 through 23. Now granted, in that day and time, there were no street lights or anything like that in the cities and towns of Egypt. At night, there would be illumination from the moon and the stars and possibly some type of torches or lamps. But this was a darkness that could be felt, and that is extreme darkness. I know oftentimes whenever you will tour some of the caverns that have been designated as tourist attractions, as you go through those caves, sometimes the tour guides will turn off the lights to show you what it is like in a total absence of light. And this is a darkness that can be felt. It is an almost ominous feeling because there's no way of knowing what is around you. And that's where so much of the fear of darkness, especially among the young, comes from, because they're not able to ascertain their surroundings. They're not able to see what is in that darkness. Now I want you to notice two things about this darkness in Egypt. Notice that it lasted for 3 days, and it did not affect the Israelites. That was a darkness that, notice it was throughout the day, telling us that in some way God blocked out the light of the sun over the land of Egypt. And we need to keep in mind that if God can create light, then certainly he can take out the light. God is all-powerful and has the ability to do this. But it would also seem as well that they could not use fire for light either. It was a total darkness, and no one could see or move for 3 days. And this would indicate that they couldn't light lamps or burn torches or anything else. But notice this also says that it did not apply to the Israelites. They had light in their homes. But not only was it total darkness for the Egyptians, but it did not affect God's people in the same way. And this is the same image that we find to describe the condition of the world without Jesus. We read in John, the 1st chapter, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." And then skipping down to verses 4 and 5, "In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." Going back to the illustration of the caves that you go to, whenever those lights are turned out, sometimes the guide will strike a match or will light some form of a lighter or turn on a small flashlight. And it's amazing how much light that one source is able to put out in total darkness. And friends, that is exactly what Jesus did. The world was in complete darkness due to sin, and Jesus was the light who came to dispel that darkness. Now, who wouldn't prefer to have light than darkness? Yet we're told that many people prefer the darkness of sin to the light of life that Jesus offers, John 3:19. And as Christians, we must live as children of light, shining the light of Jesus in the darkness of this world so that people can see that there is a better way. Friends, we thank you for joining us for our program today, and have a blessed day.